Estamos en esta tierra tan bonita, Tampico, Tamaulipas, para estar agarrando estos... ¿qué vamos a agarrar?
Malandros, jefe.
Huevo. Échame más tus pinches mentiras, ojete.
No, jefe, pues es la puritita verdad lo que le digo. Es todo.
Te voy a matar, cabrón.
¡Ay, Diosito santo! ¡Ay!
No metas a Dios en esto, cabrón. Te voy a tomar una foto para tenerte en mi colección de uno de los tantos pendejetes.
I'm already in Sonora along with my team. None of us are criminals, nor do we have a criminal record. We're ex-military, trained, and prepared for whatever.
It's not every day you see one man take on some of the most dangerous people on the planet, but that's exactly what happened when a former Marine known as Marino Loko took to social media with a chilling message: war. Cartel kingpins have done more damage to the world with their drugs than most things, and they've gotten away with it. Most of them live lavishly, while the peoples whose lives they ruin are suffering. The world has basically had to stand by and watch as they destroyed the world, piece by piece, until now. One man is not standing by and watching the cartels destroy the world anymore, and he just declared war on the cartels. Broadcast for the world to see, he promised to come after them with everything he's got. You've got to wonder, what kind of person has the guts, or maybe the recklessness, to openly challenge powerful cartels like this, and why? Let's find out in the story of Marino Loko, the lethal ex-Marine who sent a viral threat video to cartel bosses.
They made that decision to be thugs, and among the thugs, there has to be someone who's in charge. So that man must be consistently macho and bossy. So when I grab them, dress them as women, humiliate them, make them kiss with others, dance and pose as a woman, it's a way of humiliating them and reminding them that they're never gonna be what they think they are.
Erick Morales Guevara was known by many names, each name striking fear into the hearts of cartel drug lords. Whether you knew him as Marino Loko, Martillo, or Mr. Thor, if you were a cartel member and either of those names were said to you, you ran as fast as your legs could carry you because they all knew what it meant to have an encounter with Marino Loko. You see, Marino had one mission in life: to capture drug traffickers and humiliate them by dressing them up as women. Once he began operating and caught a few cartel members, his name began to go around the internet and people were really curious. Who was Marino Loko, and why was he so hell-bent on destroying a group of people governments have been trying to destroy for decades? They soon found out that Marion wasn't just an ordinary person. He wasn't just someone looking for his 15 seconds of fame on the internet. He was an ex-Marine who worked for the Mexican Navy. But you see, Marino, though he worked for the Mexican Navy, did not do things like the Mexican Navy. He had his own methods, and those methods were what brought him fame and names like the hunter of drug traffickers.
I'm already in Sonora along with my team. None of us are criminals, nor do we have a criminal record. We're ex-military, trained, and prepared for whatever. We don't harm anyone who doesn't owe it.
Marino's method required humiliating the cartel members after capturing them. He would make them dress in women's clothing and perform acts on each other, saying he did that because he knew their identity was tied to their Mikiokan, and making them dress and act feminine would break them.
They made that decision to be thugs, and among the thugs, there has to be someone who's in charge. So that man must be consistently macho and bossy. So when I grab them, dress them as women, humiliate them, make them kiss with others, dance and pose as a woman, it's a way of humiliating them and reminding them that they're never gonna be what they think they are.
His thinking was that breaking them psychologically would deter other young boys who might be glorifying that kind of lifestyle. Basically, he wanted them to know what awaited them if they went that route. Marino was the literal boogeyman.
We come from the south, and we've already calmed down fights there. Now it's the north, then the center.
Now, he didn't just humiliate these people. You remember earlier when I said he wanted to deter other people from choosing that path? Well, to really drive the message across, Marino recorded the torture and humiliation session every time. After the sessions, he would upload the videos to a portal called Breitbart. Marino operated within the states of Tamaulipas and Nuevo León, and during his time there, cartel members lived. It was so bad that the Mexican Navy had to distance themselves from his actions. At the time, they said Marino's method was unorthodox and wrong, even though he and his team basically helped them take down all of the people dealing in those harmful substances.
Échame más tus pinches mentiras, ojete.
No, jefe, pues es la puritita verdad lo que le digo. Es todo.
Te voy a matar, cabrón.
Ay, Diosito santo. Ay, ay, ay.
No metas a Dios en esto, cabrón. Te voy a tomar una foto para tenerte en mi colección
Simón.
de uno de los tantos pendejetes.
Okay.
But how the Mexican Navy felt about his methods didn't really concern El Marino. He had a mission to carry out after all, and no one was going to stop him from ridding the world of the cartels. Till today, the tale of what El Marino did to those cartel members sends chills down everyone's bones. He basically went loco on them.
Que han llorado, cabrón, diciendo que no tiene nada, mas sin embargo eres un maldito lacra de la pinche sociedad.
Okay.
Que envenena, cabrón. Pero le agradezco a Dios que te manden para así poder divertirme con ustedes, ojete. Y agradece que no tengo mi martillo, cabrón.
One of the worst stories of El Marino's humiliation and torture was what he did to El Mimido, a sicario for the Gulf Cartel. He broke the spirit of El Mimido and posted it for the whole world to see. He broke into El Mimido's hiding den and descended on him. He and his team raided the property, seizing every single thing they could seize, but that wasn't all they did on that day. When they were done ransacking the house, they then faced El Mimido, who was already shaking in anticipation, and he was right to be terrified. What El Marino and his team did to him was unimaginable. Once he was done torturing El Mimido, El Marino decided to force him into some female lingerie, making him lie down and pose for them while they made recordings of him. And that wasn't all they did. Whilst wearing the female clothes, they forced him to kiss one of his hitmen, and the entire time, they pointed and laughed at him. Situations like these caused him problems with the Navy, and soon enough, he started receiving the death threats, his name even appearing on narcomantas in different areas of the state of Tamaulipas. But El Marino didn't care what anyone had to say about his methods. He was done sitting around and twiddling his thumbs while real criminals got away. The death threats were of no significance to him. He just moved right along to his next victim. For those of you who don't know the name, El Chive was the leader of the Gulf Cartel in the city of Tampico, but when El Marino got through to him, he wasn't much of anything anymore. You see, this beef was personal for El Marino. Just a few short months before he decided to pay El Chive a visit, El Chive had paid people close to El Marino a visit and unalived several of them. El Marino worked for the Navy and the Gulf Cartel and kidnapped and tortured 3 of his colleagues, so he was out for blood and he wasn't going to back down. And it wasn't just El Marino. Several of his colleagues agreed with him because they were tired of the way their government was handling the case. The government basically did nothing to try to find the people who did that to those Marines, and the rest of the men were tired. They knew they had skills and wanted to be unleashed on the cartels so they could take their revenge, but the government was holding them back. That's when El Marino and his group went rogue. El Marino broke into El Chive's home, his team with him for backup. Unfortunately, El Chive was not at home at the time, and El Marino could not carry out his mission. This did not please him at all, and he wasn't satisfied. He needed to do something that'll send a message to El Chive that he's coming for him, and there's nowhere he can hide. While he was in El Chive's home, he came across the ashes of his father, and suddenly an idea occurred to him. He used the ashes of El Chive's father to deface one of El Marino's most prized possessions. This move provoked El Chive so much that he went into a rage. He wanted El Marino to feel his wrath, so he contacted every bounty hunter and collector he knew and put a price on El Marino's head, literally 3 million pesos, for anyone who could bring him El Marino, dead or alive. A few weeks later, he vanished. El Marino vanished in 2017 without a trace. At first, many thought the cartels had gotten to him and taken him out, but then some strange things started happening. Bodies of men dressed in women's clothing had started turning up in neighboring states, leading most people to believe that he's still alive and carrying out his mission elsewhere. This time, be a little more careful not to attract, moving more silently than he did before. In fact, there are people who even believe that El Marino ran off to create his own anti-drug group because he was tired of the red tapes in the Mexican Navy not caring and not allowing him to get to the cartel members. Though people wished either of those stories were true, there was nothing that proved without a doubt that El Marino was still alive somewhere fighting the good fight, until now.
Estamos en esta tierra tan bonita, Tampico, Tamaulipas, para estar agarrando estos... ¿Qué vamos a agarrar?
Malandros, jefe.
Huevo.
Everyone was shocked when a video began to make its way on the internet, and in the video was El Marino, alive and well. He was also doing what he knows best, coming after cartel leaders and members.
Le prometo, Teto, Canelo, Chuy, los camellos, la cosa y toda la bola de... es algo que tengo pendiente y le vamos a hacer su...
In one of his most notorious videos, El Marino Loko is seen addressing cartel bosses with unchecked bravery. He calls them out by name, letting them know he was back, which meant their unchecked reign of terror was about to come to an end. El Marino questioned their authority, told them he was coming for them, and dared them to confront him. Because of what he has done before, the video is sending shivers and shockwaves through the cartel walls right now. This was a man who wreaked havoc on the cartels before he vanished. Proof of what he did was right here. The point of the video was to remind them who he was. The video was intended to undermine the cartel's image and incite fear among their ranks. By sharing these videos on social media, he wants to expose the cartel's vulnerabilities and inspire others to join him in standing against them and saving their homes.
Una vez le digo que no vamos a llevar ningún prisionero. ¿Ya sabe cómo trabajo? Y vamos a empezar el show.
El Marino Loko's story is one of defiance, bravery, and ultimately, violence. His death threat videos are his way of taking a stand, shining a light on the cartel's reign of terror and refusing to bow down to their power. But in the world of organized crime, such boldness rarely goes unanswered, and many people are worried the same people who tried to kill him before would try their hand at it again. After all, he's back to doing exactly what almost got him killed the last time. While his approach is controversial, there's no denying that Erick Morales Guevara left an impact. He forced people to look at the cartels in a different way and sparked conversations about courage, justice, and the devastating consequences of living in a world where violence and corruption often go unchecked. Hey guys, thank you for watching. What do you think about the disturbing things El Marino did to cartel members? And how do you think that'll affect them now? Let me know in a comment. And before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.